Welcome, everyone. Today's episode of Let's Talk About Pools, and episode 10 is going to be on AOP with Tom Schaefer, Technical Sales Director with Clear Comfort. So this is a nice alternative, especially as we're going into our shortages for chlorine tablets and maybe some other disinfection products. So definitely listen in. And again, I want to thank you to this podcast sponsor, which is Patriot Pool Heating. Any of your pool heating needs up in the Northeast, they are the ones to call. So thank you so much, Patriot Pool Heating, for sponsoring this episode of Let's Talk About Pools. So let's go in and listen in to this exciting episode.
I'm Tom Schaefer from Patriot Pool Heating. We specialize in custom and semi-custom indirect pool heating solutions. 5-year warranty and 5 years of preventative maintenance on this system. Is your current provider doing that? Patriot Pool Heating is the only company in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast that is manufacturer certified for all the major manufacturers of pool heaters. So if you're from a community pool to a tremendous water park, we can serve all your pool heating needs.
Welcome, everybody, today to Let's Talk About Pools. And on my episode today, I have a very wonderful special guest I've been looking so forward to having. His name is Tom Schaefer. He's the Technical Sales Director of Clear Comfort. And he's going to be, hey, how are you?
Well,
he's going to be talking today about AOP. And I'm sure everybody listening is like, what does that stand for? We're going to learn all about AOP and the supplemental technology with Tom today.
Well, thank you for having me, Lauren. My name is Tom Schaefer, as you said. My background historically in the industry has been as a medium pressure UV manufacturer, supplying technology that is a supplemental technology that improves air and water quality. You'll always, with supplemental technologies, you're still going to need chlorine or bromine. You're still going to have to follow health code standards, but these supplemental technologies aid in that disinfection. I've got a short presentation here that I'll share my screen. Please feel free to interject and ask questions at any time. Well, Lauren, I've shared my screen. We're going to talk about AOP technology as a secondary or supplemental water treatment system. AOP is based upon using hydroxyl radicals, which are a very powerful oxidizer. It's actually the most prevalent oxidizer in our planet's lower atmosphere. It scrubs the air and keeps our air clean. On average, there are probably 2 million hydroxyl radicals in each cubic centimeter of air, so they're all around us. It's not something that we have to be scared about. On the oxidation scale, Clear Comfort technology is patented technology. It's fairly unique in how it produces hydroxyl radicals, but we make monoatomic oxygen, O1. We take O2 air out of the air that we breathe, and we make O1 injected in the water, and it makes a hydroxyl radical. You can see the power of its oxidation on this scale. It's very powerful. It's much more powerful than ozone or hydrogen peroxide, and significantly more powerful as an oxidizer than chlorine or bromine. But what's really fantastic is the reaction rates of hydroxyl radicals. It's one of the reasons that they're safe in the air around us. The slowest reaction rates are 100,000th of a second. They can react up to 1 million times faster than ozone. So when you inject them into a filtration stream in a swimming pool, they totally react, oxidize, and dissipate within a second or two. Nothing returns back to the pool as a hydroxyl radical. So Clear Comfort actually pulls the air out of the filter room. There's no water going through a Clear Comfort system, just air. We break apart the O2 into O1 in a similar way as our planet does. We use a small UV light and a magnetic array and break apart the bond of O2 into O1. It's then injected into the water, where it instantly sees H2O water and grabs one of the hydrogens to make a hydroxyl radical, leave one behind. It's a very efficient way of doing that. Clear Comfort has it scales great for large water. We have systems, our largest system treats 2,000 gallons per minute, where ozone or AOP technologies can use ozone or hydrogen peroxide, and they're much less efficient. They don't come near treating 2,000 GPM.
Did we say for our listeners what AOP stands for?
Oh, my apologies. We may have at the beginning. It's Advanced Oxidation Process, and AOP is defined by using hydroxyl radicals.
Gotcha.
So We have an injection point where you inject the O1 into the water, and what it does, it instantly oxidizes out contaminants. And so you have less contaminants in the water, there's less demand for chlorine. So as the contamination level drops, you actually see a 30 to 50% reduction in your consumption of chemicals. Now, the city of Reno, Nevada, and the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, they found a 70% reduction in their chemical consumption. Now, obviously, this does not bode well for companies selling chemicals. But one of the other great things about, by taking the contaminant level out of the water, the ability of the chlorine to disinfect or oxidize increases typically 30 to 50 points. So if you're running your chemical controllers off of ORP, you're going to want to lower that set point from the upper 700s to the lower 700s after adding Clear Comfort. Retrofitting it on an existing pool, you'll see the ORP climb typically around 3 points a day until it'll settle out 30 to 50 points higher.
So it really does help the chlorine.
It does. And as well as reduce the consumption, it also increases its ability to oxidize. So hydroxyradicals are indiscriminate. They go after everything. Chloramines, it's been proven, Clear Comfort's been proven to disinfect cryptosporidium. However, it's worth pointing out that test standard does not comply with Florida Health Code for spray parks and splash pads. You would have to get a variance by your local health official holding jurisdiction. It's also been proven to drop trihalomethane levels dramatically. THMs are considered carcinogenic. They're regulated in drinking water, not in pool water. The reality is they're higher levels in pool water because we have more organics and more chlorine. But regardless of what kind of contaminants you have in your water, hydroxyradicals are going after them. AOP technology has been around since the early 1970s, originally developed to clean up groundwater at Superfund cleanup sites, to take down things like rocket fuels and pesticides. We may or may not know about cryptosporidium. It's not a bacteria or virus, it's a protozoan parasite, and it is gestated in hundreds of types of animals, actually about 140 different types of animals. Dr. Carl Linden is our nation's preeminent researcher on AOP technology at the University of Colorado Boulder. He has done tests on Clear Comfort proving we're effective disinfecting crypto. He used real live crypto in these tests. He also did tests on trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids and proved that we knocked them down 70%, 92%, 85%. Again, it's indiscriminate. So any type of contaminant in the water, we're knocking it down dramatically. These are actually independent lab results from a YMCA in Indiana that had medium pressure UV on all 5 pools. Well, they tested their water at a local lab when using UV. Then they turned the UV off and put Clear Comfort on. I added the numbers in red. That's how much better Clear Comfort did at improving or lowering these unhealthy chlorine disinfection byproducts. They eventually replaced all 5 UV systems, but what was most telling by the operator, on the one pool we just saw the lab results, he cut his consumption of cal hypo in half, 50%, saved dramatically on electricity because medium pressure UV is an energy hog, and he got significant grant money. He eventually received $16,000 in grant money and similar annual energy savings by replacing the UV.
Oh, wow. So those are some of the benefits that a specific facility using the unit actually saw.
And this is actually unsolicited data from a Jewish community center in New Jersey. They determined what their chemical savings were on 2 pools. After adding us a year later, they saved $5,000. Another benefit of using a very powerful oxidizer to aid chlorine is that it improves clarity. Now, I love this from many points. One is it shows how much it's taking garbage out of the water. Another thing is the aesthetic. The water just looks greater. And then lastly, from a life-saving drowning prevention standpoint, lifeguard's going to like the pool on the right much more. We've seen chlorine stability. Obviously, if you're improving, taking garbage out of the water and improving the ORP, you're going to have less severity in peaks and valleys in your chlorine demand. On the far right, you'll see after AOP refined, all they did was dial down their chemical controller and use less chemicals because they didn't need as much.
But less peaks and valleys on there than it was before AOP or even after AOP. It was after the AOP got refined that it really kind of plateaued and stopped going up and down, up and down.
Right. It truly makes the operator's job much easier. This is actually a picture from a pool at the Villages in Florida. This is the gunk conglomeration of skin cells and lotions and I don't know what else. And this is what it looked like after they added Clear Comfort. The theory here is that we're going to expand the time between backwashing filters because we're oxidizing garbage out of the water. So you'll save on water, save on balancing that water chemically as well as heating it.
So for the listeners, it was somebody's hand that had a bunch of gunky, slimy stuff on their hand. And then after they were using AOP, when they touched the same surface inside the pipe there, nothing. They didn't have any of that gunky stuff on their hand after putting AOP on.
And we've gotten feedback from the aerobics instructor there, as well as the patrons, that they just love the feel of the water. AOP does a great job of getting rid of chlorine disinfection byproducts that are responsible for the dry skin, the red eye, the smell, respiratory issues. An installation of an AOP system is incredibly easy, simple, and compact. It can be done in under an hour, simply plugging it into a wall outlet. We can put a system on a big 50-meter Olympic-sized pool to treat 2,000 gallons per minute by plugging it into a wall outlet. With a UV system, you're going to have an amp load that's 20 times that.
Wow.
So installation is very simple. You just have to cut and tap 2 1-inch NPT threaded holes into the return pipe, screw in a flow switch that acts as a safety interlock, the ceramic diffuser, which blows the O1 into the water to make hydroxyls. That's it. It's a very simple installation.
So, Tom, what are some of those definite benefits of using AOP for our listeners?
Well, certainly the primary benefit is it's going to control chlorine disinfection byproducts, improving the water and air quality. So you have silky, smooth water, you don't have the dry skin, but you also have secondary benefits. It is a supplemental sanitizer. It has been proven to disinfect cryptosporidium, but it really depends on your state health code, what they require, but it does. It is a secondary sanitizer. It improves the ability of chlorine to disinfect while also dropping your consumption of chlorine around 50%. It improves the stability of the chlorine, improves the water clarity, and relative to other technologies on the market, it's much more cost effective. It costs 30 to 50% less to purchase, 90% less to operate. It consumes 95% less electricity. Maintenance can be done by on-site staff in 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to hire an independent contractor to charge you $100 an hour or more, or the route to drive out to see you. It's truly a fantastic technology. And if you plan on replacing medium pressure UV, you'll likely get not only thousands in annual energy savings, but thousands in grant money.
Wow. So how does AOP compare to like the other supplemental technologies?
Well, it's very similar to ozone from the standpoint they both oxidize, and you'll both realize chemical savings with ozone and AOP. With Clear Comfort AOP, it's very simplified. A lot of the AOP systems on the market take the complexity of a UV system and marry it to the complexity of ozone system. And there certainly can be more technicality there.
All right. And what are some of the challenges that you see with AOP?
Well, to be truthful, the biggest challenge would be the companies that make a lot of money selling chemicals and making a lot of money selling UV. They don't want to have anything to do with this, but I truly believe I was a UV manufacturer for 20 years and promoted it as the best technology available. But I truly believe in the next few years, as the market becomes aware of the cost and benefits of all the options, AOP is going to win out.
Well, you said the cost of installation and the ease of installation even is completely different than some of the other supplemental technologies.
True. Oftentimes, those technologies have dedicated territories, and the companies that represent them like that dedicated income.
So with the shortages and the increase in cost in the industry that we're seeing right now, how is AOP going to help our pool companies, our pool techs, and that kind of thing?
Well, thank you for that question. This alludes to the podcast, which you've already published, where we did a great roundtable. And it goes back to the fact that currently money is inexpensive, relatively speaking. Interest rates are low, but we expect those to climb with all the cost increases when it comes to materials, steel, PVC, chemicals, wood. So AOP technology, while it is a upfront cost, it's still much less expensive than other technologies. But the primary benefit here is they're going to see a reduction in their chemical consumption. And in times of high cost and increased demand, we can certainly help the potential to keep a pool open versus not being able to open.
And it's going to extend the use of, if they're using chlorine, extend the use of the chlorine that they're using to be able to use more of it over a longer period of time. Because if they have AOP on there, it's assisting the chlorine. So you're using less chlorine at this moment, is what
You're
my
having
understanding
deliveries
is.
less often.
Yep. Is there anything else you want to add today about AOP for our listeners?
Well, I definitely appreciate the opportunity, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me. If anyone would like to learn more, we can easily schedule a Zoom webinar. I will be presenting at the Florida Park and Rec Show this fall, as well as you. I look forward to seeing you there. But thank you so much again for your time.
No problem. It was wonderful having you on today and talking about AOP, so our listeners will understand what other supplemental technologies are out there, especially in this time of shortages. Got all kinds of shortages out there for different things. So thank you so much. So Tom, how does Clear Comfort back their product up for customers, pool operators, pool service contractors?
Well, thanks for asking. Certainly, we have a 5-year warranty, which is pretty good. But beyond that, it's almost unheard of in the industry. We have a 90-day unconditional money-back guarantee to prove performance. The customer doesn't have to worry about risking this investment. We will prove it to them over time. And on a case-by-case basis, we can actually do a 30-day risk-free trial with a small deposit that's fully refundable. We can prove performance before they even purchase the system, and then they have 90 days to return it for a full refund.
And how can they find Clear Comfort? Your website? Can we tell our listeners where they can find you guys at if they have any questions about your product?
Sure. Thank you. Our website's clearcomfort.com. We're out of Boulder, Colorado. We are USA manufactured. And please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast today. And you have a wonderful day, Tom.
Thank you. You too.